This serial killer committed such twisted murders during his time, we're surprised most people don't know the story. In this video I am going to share the story of the world's most murderous and disturbed serial killer. Let's get right into it. Harold Shipman, a serial killer, used his position as a well-respected family doctor between 1975 and 1998 to execute up to 250 of his victims by fatal injection. You heard that right, this guy was absolutely deranged. Dr. Harold Shipman violated his duty to serve those who were most in need by taking advantage of them. And in a horribly ironic turn of events, he went on to become one of the most active serial killers in English history. Utilizing their trust, Shipman would first give false diagnoses to his patients before administering a fatal dose of diamorphine. Perhaps all 250 people were unaware that their trip to Harold Shipman's office would be their last. 1946 is when Harold Shipman in Nottingham, England was born. He had a bright future as a student and was a standout in athletics, especially rugby. But when Shipman was barely 17 years old, the direction of his life changed. His mother Vera, with whom Shipman was very close, received a lung cancer diagnosis that year. Shipman watched intently as the doctor gave her morphine as she lay dying in the hospital, relieving her pain. If you're telling me watching his mother's slow death turned him into a morbid, twisted murder instead of causing pain and grief alone, this story can only get worse. Lo and behold, experts would later speculate that this was the moment that inspired his sadistic killing spree and modus operandi. Following his mother's death, Shipman went on to marry Primrose May Oxtoby while studying medicine at Leeds University Medical School. The pair had 4 children together, and from the outside, Shipman's life was the picture of normality. He graduated in 1970 and commenced life as a junior doctor, but he quickly moved up the ranks and became a general practitioner at a medical center in West Yorkshire. It's almost like he created a lifelong plan to murder, so dedicated he even went to school as part of his plan. That is downright wicked. Here is where Shipman ran into legal issues for the first time in 1976. Forging prescriptions for Demerol, an opioid often used to treat severe pain, for the young physician's own use was discovered. Shipman was now dependent. He received a fine, lost his job, and had to go to a recovery center in York. In 1977, Harold Shipman appeared to bounce back fast and went back to work at the Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde. He would work here for the following 15 years of his career before starting a solo practice in 1993. He earned a reputation as a caring and competent doctor among his patients and in his neighborhood. His bedside manner was well known. At first, it seemed he was a genuinely good doctor, and a caring one at that. Weird how people can turn so fast to something so dark. Or so it seemed. Because he was already killing his patients then, and no one knew that at the same time, the good doctor was doing this. Shipman saw 70-year-old Eva Lyons as his first patient in March 1975. Her birthday was the following day. At this point, Shipman had access to more than enough diamorphine to kill hundreds of people. But his addiction wasn't even recognized until the following year. Despite being fired that year for falsifying prescriptions, Shipman was not expelled from the General Medical Council, which oversees doctors. Instead, he got a letter of caution. It doesn't help when people are lenient on others doing things that clearly should get them fired. Who wants a drug addict for a doctor? Anyways. Investigators said that throughout Shipman's long period of terror, his killing spree was frequently interrupted and then resumed. But he always used the same deadly, twisted technique. He would prey on the weak, with Peter Lewis, 41, being his youngest victim, and Ann Cooper, 93, being his oldest. Then, he would either watch them die immediately after receiving a deadly dose of diamorphine, or he would send them home to die. Who does this? What kind of a mind must you have to commit such devious and disgusting acts of murder? He is thought to have killed a total of 71 patients while working at the Donnybrook Clinic, and the remaining victims while running his solo business. 44 men and 171 women were among his victims. However, in 1998, the quantity of Shipman's patients who were passing away raised suspicions among the local funeral directors in Hyde. The nearby medical facility also learned that his patients' death rate was over 10 times higher than theirs. The Greater Manchester Police were then contacted after they expressed their concerns to the local coroner. This might have signaled the end of Shipman's horror, but it didn't. This is the actual picture of the location he used to murder his patients. The most fundamental of checks, such as determining whether Shipman has a criminal history, were not made throughout the police investigation. They would have discovered that he had previously falsified prescriptions if they had inquired about what was on his file with the medical board. Additionally, cunning Shipman hid his tracks by documenting fictitious diseases for his victims. Because there was nothing suspicious discovered throughout the investigation, the murderous doctor was free to continue his killing spree. He finally got caught, after he made the error of attempting to fake the will of 81-year-old Kathleen Grundy, a former mayor of his town of Hyde, when Shipman's true crimes were ultimately discovered. Shipman chose the cremation option on Grundy's will to destroy the evidence after giving her a deadly dosage of diamorphine. He then used his typewriter to completely delete her relatives from the will, leaving everything to him. Grundy, however, had already been buried when local attorneys informed her daughter, Angela Woodruff, about the bequest. She called the police as soon as she suspected foul play. Woodruff remarked, "The whole event was incredible. It was unthinkable to imagine my mother signing the paperwork giving her doctor complete control. The idea of her signing a document with such poor typing didn't make sense." Not only was he a sadistic murderer, he wanted to steal dying people's wealth. Following the exhumation of Grundy's body in August 1998, diamorphine was discovered in her muscle tissues. On September 7 of that year, Shipman was then taken into custody. Another 11 victims' bodies were exhumed over the course of the following 2 months. Additionally, a police specialist examined Shipman's medical office computer and found that he had generated bogus entries. To substantiate the fabricated causes of death he claimed on the death certificates of his victims. At the same time, Shipman argued, citing his notes as proof, that Grundy was dependent on a substance like morphine or heroin. Police, however, discovered that Shipman had created the notes on his computer following her passing. Police were able to confirm 14 further instances in which Shipman had administered deadly amounts of diamorphine, falsely recorded the patients' deaths, and altered their medical records to indicate that they were already dying. Harold Shipman consistently refuted the murders and resisted cooperating with investigators or forensic psychologists. He sat with his eyes closed, yawned, and wouldn't look at any evidence when the police tried to question him or show him pictures of his victims. Police could only bring 15 murder charges against Shipman, although it is believed that he has killed between 250 and 450 people. Shipman was given a life sentence in jail in 2000, with the suggestion that he never be freed. He was jailed in a Manchester facility but was transferred to Wakefield Prison in West Yorkshire, where he committed suicide. Shipman was discovered hanged in his cell on January 13, 2004, the day before he turned 58. Prior to this, he confided in his probation officer that he was considering suicide so that his wife would collect his pension and lump payment. The reason he killed is still a mystery with his passing. There are several ideas as to why Shipman felt the impulse to kill. Some suggest that he might have been seeking revenge for his mother's passing. What do you think? Is he the most twisted murderer in history? Or was he the most humane? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe.